Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from YB. This project recreates music from Warsaw jazz orchestras from before World War II, as exemplified by the 1932 song Yo-Yo from their second album. The band is led by Band Młynarski, who has previously explored old Polish music in other projects and specializes in mimicking the singing style of that era, and Marcin Masecki, a brilliant pianist and composer who is responsible for the wild arrangements here. They usually perform with a horn section and drums, but in this performance they have an expanded lineup. I apologize if the pronunciations of those people's names is not perfect. I tried my best, and it took me a long time to find interviews where I could hear the name, the pronunciation of the names. Let's dive into this though. See what's going on with this jazz music. Ooh, spicy. Okay. Very explosive.
Jojo, czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Gdy raz spróbujesz tej najnowszej manii, piękna pani będzie także pasją twoją. Jojo, 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 jojo. Czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Jeżeli nie, to cię nauczę chętnie, bo namiętnie uprawiam jojo, najnowszą grę. Krążek w górę, krążek na dół i licz. To jest lepsze niż wyścigi rycz. Jojo, czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Jeśli rutynę masz i
The main vocalist to the rest of the band, to the violins. I love that movement.
Ladies and gentlemen, panie i panowie, witamy was najserdeczniej.
Really interesting harmonic modulation. It's the second time we've heard the violins on a downward motion while the rest of the band uses dynamics for an uprising. Ever so lightly playing the drums. A lot of repetition, and in fact, tightly focused ostinatos are a major part of this composition. What in the world? Going from the brass to the strings. Beautiful baton pass there. There's a lot of up and down movements across this entire composition. Very playful call and response, but very dramatic now. Interesting tempo movement there. A lot of bouncing between. I love that. Little scoops. Parisian? Oh.
Yo yo, yo yo, yo yo. Czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Gdy raz spróbujesz tej najnowszej manii, piękna pani będzie także pasją twoją. Jojo, 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 jojo. Czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Jeżeli nie, to cię nauczę nie, bo namiętnie uprawiam jojo, najnowszą grę. Krążek w górę, krążek na dół i licz. To jest lepsze niż wyścigi brycz. Jojo, czy pani umie grać już w jojo? Jeśli rutynę masz i faktem w ręku, to po ciemku grać będziesz w jojo, zapewniam cię.
This is ridiculous. In like the best kind of way, honestly. There's something that happens once you reach a certain level of skill, compositionally and performatively within an art, that you can really start to have fun with things. And I think, generally speaking, I'm sure this isn't true for every single instance of every single artist across every single art form, but frequently what I see is that people with the least amount of skill tend to have the most fun working within their medium. Then in the middle, we kind of ramp up into seriousness. And as you learn your skill, your craft more, you really take your craft seriously. And then, as you get even better, it comes back down to fun. And while there are certainly people at the top of their craft who still just take it completely seriously, I see stuff like this frequently, where all I can do is sit in awe of both the knowledge and skill required to pull this off, but also just how stupidly campy and childish it is. I absolutely love seeing this. My take on this is that it is a song that is designed to embody fun, embody playfulness, and it is just full of rising and falling action that I believe is designed to artistically represent, sometimes very literally, sometimes more abstractedly, a yo-yo. Yo-yos go up and down. The more skilled you are with the yo-yo, the more interesting thing you can do with it, not just up and down, but more spatial, three-dimensional. You can even use the z-axis. and I suppose the x-axis as well. You can do really cool tricks with the yo-yo. But the core idea of a yo-yo is that it starts high, you throw it down, it drops, and then it comes back up into your hand. And this rising and falling action is present in about a million different ways in this track. It is kind of ridiculous how often this motif of short repetitive ostinatos of rising and falling pitch or volume or intensity or probably some other parameters I haven't paid attention to or don't remember, it makes up so much of this track. And it's done to a point where it's almost comical. And if it were done by anyone less experienced or knowledgeable, particularly in the composition side of this, I don't think it would be as endearing. Part of why this stands out to me is because it is both goofy and incredibly difficult. The fun isn't just the only thing that it is. The chops required to pull this off for the musicians alone. Yeah, we have some really quick movements from really high notes to really low notes, just massive gaps to fill. There's really quick ideas in here that you definitely need to have a solid double tonguing technique for. The endurance to play all of this, as it is very bouncy and kind of dancey. It's almost like a jaunt a little bit. And it's just constantly moving at a brisk pace. It requires a bunch of endurance. It is a 12 minute track full of energy that just doesn't stop. But on the compositional side, the harmonic element alone is ridiculous. The chord theory that goes into this, not usually within the A sections, the more pre-composed parts, but certainly the solo sections and definitely the piano solo section, just absolutely bonkers display of harmonic information. I was talking about some really wild harmonic modulation going on right as the piano part started, and I had no idea where they were going to take that right from the start. I already thought it was really strange and out there and skillful, and then it just got even more crazy after that. Just the sheer compositional side of this is wild, but also just how frequently do we have this rising and falling motif in here, and it doesn't really get old. This is going to be a really wild parallel, but they kind of remind me of Bolt Thrower. Bear with me for a second. Bolt Thrower can put 15 to 20 riffs into a song, and they're all kind of based around the same harmonic idea. It's not like they're changing chord progressions or, using modes that are outside of the metal vernacular. I mean, they're definitely writing solid metal music, very traditional sound, but they're riff machines. They can make a lot of unique and interesting riffs out of the same few notes. And that's kind of what we see here. This is this one idea of just really tight rising and falling patterns. And they must have written 150 variations of this concept. It is kind of bonkers just how frequently it shows up in new and exciting ways, not just for all of the band, which there are certainly cases where the entire group's kind of focused on one rhythmic device or one ostinato, but there's plenty of places where we have multiple of these ideas going off simultaneously, and they're all interlocking in interesting ways, playing off of each other's energy, call and response, counterpoint, dancing around each other's little ostinato ideas, and it's incredibly dense, but it's all doing the same thing, but it's different enough to keep it interesting. I don't think I can undersell just how complex this is, even though I think when you listen to it, it doesn't really come across as that. I don't know what this sounds like to someone who doesn't have music education backgrounds, but I do think it has a lot of palatability to it. I think people can just enjoy this song even if they don't know what's going on in it, and that's usually a case of creating something that sounds easier than it is. I think that's what's happening here, but I'd be interested in listening to some of y'all's experience with this. If you don't have a music background, did this sound complex to you before I started diving into all of the layers of complexity in it? And I find it to be really interesting because it triggers a lot of the ways that I like really engage with music. When I hear some stuff that just says, okay, even if you're listening to this casually, we got to figure out what's going on here. We got to, start igniting the analytical side of things, get that engine revving. I got to know what's going on here. There's a lot of those moments in here, but it just doesn't kind of come across as a complex song. But it hit me right from the start. I mean, it's just neurons firing rapidly on this track. It is incredibly dense. But I think part of why I believe it is digestible and easy to listen to and probably sounds simpler than it is first of all, there is the A section, which is the least complex part of the track. We have vocals, and that's always a sure sign for simplicity. But the vocal melody is catchy and repetitive. It's easy to listen to, and it's probably a melody you could hum back to me right now. There's also a really fun way of incorporating the instrumentation into the melody part when he says yo yo, and then the background goes yo yo, and then the violins go wow wow. I love that part, but even that yo yo, boom, we got vertical movement even within that. So it's just everywhere. It really is. If you go back and listen to this specifically looking for ways that you can find ups and downs, it is a song of ups and downs. That's it. That is it to the extreme. If Dream Theater's Dance of Eternity is time signature changes to the extreme, this is high-low dynamics to the extreme. This is bonkers. But it is a very palatable melody that sits at the forefront, that's easy to remember. And when you listen to what's going on behind that too, it's kind of simple. We have the piano vamping away on some chords. We have a tuba. Boom, 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 boom. Just two notes. Again, up and down. But it's creating the bounce. It's creating the fun element to it. We have little slides. Violins do that occasionally. I think the trombones or trumpets do that as well. Nice little legato slide between two notes, rising to falling, but it helps push the song forward while everything else is on this more staccato idea. Even the piano, when I'm talking about vamping on the chords, I mean, a lot of the times you just have eighth notes, just kind of holding the chord down, but keeping that forward momentum, keeping that energy going. So it is a really simple moment. And I think that when people think back to this, and myself included in that, that's going to be the part I remember. The complexity is going to be another part, but I don't think that's going to be the first thing. The complexity is going to be like, oh yeah, after the catchy melody, they went into that crazy piano solo, and then maybe, some neurons start firing and I remember more of it. But the first thing I think of is going to be yo-yo, yo-yo, wow, because it's just so catchy and it's fun and it is super simple and digestible. And so I love how this track is as complex as it is, but it is still super fun. It is bouncy, and that really dominates so much of this track for me. When I think of the atmosphere, when I think of the chord progressions, when I think of what the piano's doing, when I think of the rhythmic elements to this track, so much of it just kind of makes me want to bounce up and down. And a lot of that is going to come from the tuba. pretty much throughout the entirety of this run, it's just boom, 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 boom. And like, that's just, it makes you want to move to it. But when you listen to the piano, when you listen to the melodies, when you listen to the chords, it's just bright, it's infectious, it's upbeat, it's bouncy. Again, thanks to the piano and the tuba just really laying home this rhythmic staticness at the bottom of the track that's very bouncy. But it is incredibly fun to listen to. There is no part in here that gets overwhelmingly dark or heavy or moody or eerie. Well, I take that back. There is one swell that the violins introduce us in, and it kind of like overpowers, and there's like some tension in there. But it's like a bar length, maybe 2 bars tops as we swell, and then we contrast out of that back to the fun and bouncy. So just a vast majority of this track is fun. It's childlike joy. And I think all this comes back to the idea of a yo-yo. And this is why I kind of think this is such an absurd song. It would not surprise me if these two people came together and said, what if we made a song about a yo-yo? And the other's like, why would we do that? It's like, well, it's going to be a complex song. You know, the two of us, we create some crazy good music on our own. So, you know, we're not going to go simple on this, but what if we just push the idea of a yo-yo into every facet and crevice of a song? Starting from the gleeful joy of playing with one to the general rising and falling pattern that yo-yos follow. And the other one's like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know how the conversation went down between these two, but it's just, this is a bonkers track. Is there anything else I want to add to this? Because, you know, like a really dense prog rock track, I'm not going to be able to touch on everything, and I would be lying if I said I remembered half of this. There's so many nuanced ideas in here. I did bring up how awesome the solo was. We brought up the highs and lows. We brought up the energy of the track. We brought up the fun versus seriousness of it. Like, this is an incredibly serious song. It just doesn't feel that way when it's played. Yeah, just absolutely phenomenal track. I do like the lights and trees too. I thought that was pretty cool. A little bit of a light show going on there. And it's just kind of interesting to hear all of this combined, because it's not really, I mean, there's jazz in it. The saxophonist at the end, absolutely jazz solo in there. The bendability of harmonic elements, very jazzy. But there's also a bit of like a ragtime, big top kind of vibe to this too. Like, there's parts of this track where I can see someone juggling on a unicycle to it. Like, it just has that fun kind of circusy vibe at times without really leaning into the traditional circus chord progressions and circusy melodies. I think it actually leans a little closer to ragtime in those elements, which kind of gives it this interesting mix of a lot of things. But then you also add in all of the rhythmic complexity, the counterpoint, the call and response, and the canon at times. I think there's also an element of fugue in here. There's definitely what feels like pockets, and then we'll like do this idea, and then we'll hit a new section that feels kind of like this one, but different and more complex. So in my gut, I think this is a fugue as well. And all of those elements are more heavily used in classical than any of the other styles in here. So it's a little mishmash between popular sounds of decades prior, but still popular sounds, plus jazz, which of course was another popular sound in a time. And, you know, they were all popular sounds at a time. But I guess the better way to be like pop music, jazz music, and classical music all kind of smashed together with an intense complexity that is designed to seem as seamless as possible. in order to create something that is just fun and digestible while still being incredibly deep and full of motifs, ostinatos, and callbacks, if you can find them. And through that lens, I'm just completely flabbergasted by this. I'm so glad this got brought to my attention. And I see this as a 2-hour performance, and this was minutes 3 through 15. I don't know if there was a short song prior to that or if it was all introduction, but if no one's going to suggest something else from this performance, I may end up watching this myself, because this has me sold on this duo as far as composition goes. There were lyrics to this. I'm going to look up some lyrics real quick. I'm not expecting a lot of depth. I heard a lot of repetition, but it wasn't in English either, so I actually don't know what was said there. Other than yo-yo, I picked that up pretty easily. Even the vocalist soloing at the end, not really scatting in the traditional sense, just kind of holding a note out and bouncing between pitches. Very yo-yo-y, but also kind of, I know I've brought this up before. I wish I could commit this instrument name. Slide whistle. There we go. Boo! So much of that really smooth sliding going on there. And that's what it reminded me of. Very interesting work overall. Fun, kind of cheesy or silly in some places, but an incredible work to both create and then perform. The lyrics they're there. I think that's about all I could say about them. They lack much of the complexity, the seriousness of the music, and is just the fun side of things. I'm kind of curious how these lyrics came up. The first stanza says, "Do you know how to play yo-yo? Once you try this latest gaming craze, it'll be your passion too. If you don't know yet, I'll gladly teach you because I'm passionate about this newest game, yo-yo." Says the puck goes up, the puck goes down, and then we count. It's better than racing and bridge. Do you know how to play yo-yo yet? If you have the routine and the patent in hand, you'll be playing yo-yo in the dark, I assure you. That's it. It's literally about how much this guy loves to play with the yo-yo. It goes up and it goes down, and that's what the song does with increasing complexity. And I think it's interesting that the lyrics don't speak about the complexity of being an expert yo-yoist, but I think the music does allude to that. It starts out very simple, and by the middle of the track, we have some really intermediate interlocking ideas and rhythmic devices, and by the end, it is a complex masterpiece of contrast and dynamics, focusing on rising and falling concepts. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. These are my thoughts then on where's my translation? Not translation. Pronunciation. Jan Młynarski and Młynarski-Masecki. The track Yo-Yo from them. What did you think of this? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this? Let me know. Put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add, into the comments section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.